As wealth becomes more global, digital, and intergenerational, families are faced with increasingly complex decisions. Managing wealth today goes beyond selecting investments. It requires building a resilient framework that reflects family goals, values, and aspirations across generations. Welcome to Business Q&A this week. I'm joined by the head of customer value proposition at Nedbank Private Wealth, Bodibe Sebolai, to debunk the challenges of wealth erosion across generations. Thanks very much for joining us, Bodibe.
Thanks very much, Gary, and thanks to your listeners for having me.
What makes Nedbank Private Wealth's family banking strategy different from other private banks?
Gary, our strategy is focused on three areas that differentiate us from our competitors. The first one is our primary focus has extended from just looking at our primary client and engaging with their family members, both the kids and the family, and extending that relationship to the family. So our wealth bankers are focused on building relationship with your kids as early as 7 and your spouse in that respect. The second part is our family banking strategy goes beyond just merely banking products and services and extending onto wealth advisory and solutions that are given both to the kids and the spouses, because we realize that you don't want them to only start dealing with those at the point of the primary client's death. You want them to already have that at the base, when they start out their relationship with us. And then the third one, which is more important, is around part of what you talked about. How do we help them deal with the idea of transferring wealth and continuing wealth through families? And that comes through our value-added services like Next Legacy and the likes of Crimson, which are aimed at equipping families to build those capabilities amongst themselves to be able to continue on their wealth journey and grow their wealth further.
How does Next Legacy address the global challenge of wealth erosion across generations?
Essentially, Next Legacy realizes that we are in a unprecedented era in which, almost 124 trillion rand, according to the last research Merrill Lynch did, that's about to exchange hands between your baby boomer generations and millennials and below. And that's unprecedented amount of money. But the challenges that exist amongst these two generations is that they've never really come together in building wealth or sharing values around money, around wealth, around strategies for each family. So what Next Legacy is set up to do is to bridge the gap between that divide. One, by helping families build shared purpose, shared value, and principles around wealth. And two, also helping them build a framework of constitutions that allow family to build a culture of managing that wealth and continue that wealth going forward. And the way we approach this, Gary, is about creating an initiative that focuses on what we call 3 cohorts. The first cohort is your young kids from 7 to the age of 12, when we then start with the basics around money management, concepts around, investing. We present that in a very, gameful manner, appropriate for that age, to start appreciating those concepts and start picking up what we call wealth building habits and appreciation of that. That comes from a pain point expressed by the baby boomers or those who are already the original wealth creators, to say, we don't feel like the young generation appreciates and values money in the same way that we did. So we start with that intervention at that end. And then in the youth space, we start introducing them to investments, which really focus on how do you make decisions around investments and wealth. We extend that all the way into the adult phase, where we then bring in ideas around leadership. What is required to lead a conglomerate? What is required to lead wealth? And there we focus on bringing things like our philanthropy services and looking at trust and how to create purposeful and meaningful wealth for the greater good.
Why is education, it sounds to me like very education-based, why is it positioned as a strategic pillar of wealth planning?
Because we realize that to try and to bridge that gap between, the older generation, it's about providing knowledge to the younger generation around, wealth itself and managing it. As high net worth family kids do get education to go to school, but school doesn't focus on wealth management, doesn't focus on building wealth, doesn't focus on your behavior around, the impact you make in your family. So that's why that part of the education becomes quite important in sharing with those families and equipping those families with the exact skills required for them to be able to continue this for generations to come.
What do lifestyle benefits have to do with wealth strategy?
And like I said, we don't just focus on, the money elements. I think we realize that, families are more than just, financial units. There are an ecosystem in itself of legacy and learning and living. So we make sure that we cover the three triangle to make sure that from a financial perspective they're okay, from a growth and protection they're okay, but also from a lifestyle perspective. High net worth individuals don't have time, so we help them free up their time by providing support and services to make sure they get to enjoy the fruits of their labor, by giving them access to the globe through travel experiences that our money can't buy experiences, according to their desire and their personal interest.
So how does Nedbank Private Wealth ensure this is not just a product-driven marketing exercise?
It's integrated in our proposition. That's why it's not just a service on the top end. It's well integrated in how we approach the client. Well, from the day we onboard you with your children, and then from a lifestyle management or a life cycle management, we interact with you through the relationship we build with you, and ensure that at each pivotal point of the life stage, you're offered the right services that you require at that point in time.
Bodibe, people listening to this might be saying, it sounds to me like it's only for ultra wealthy people. Is family banking only for ultra wealthy families?
No, I mean, the high net worth spectrum in the country goes from, it's quite wide. And I think that's part of what differentiates our strategy from a family banking perspective. You'll know that in this sector, what's common in the ultra high net worth is what's called family offices. And the idea of family banking or family offering is to extend it beyond those who can afford to build their own family office, but get a similar service that's geared to help them get to the point where they can afford to build a personalized structure and a personal team to extend into a family office.
Well, sounds interesting. We're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us, Bodibe Sebolai.
Thank you so much, Gary, and all the best to you and your listeners.
That was Bodibe Sebolai, the head of customer value proposition at Nedbank Private Wealth, taking us through the strategic pillars of wealth planning in South Africa.